Good evening. Coming to you live and on demand from Indianapolis, Indiana. Man, I missed you guys. I had to take last week off. I didn't want to do it, but I'm back tonight and I'm coming in hot. I'm Chappy. You can catch me Tuesday nights on the Lenny Melnick FantasySportsNetwork.com. Arnie, as always, a great job. My man Arnie Jones, I'll tell you, he does. I love working with this guy. If you don't listen to Arnie, you're missing out. He's on at 6 o'clock on Tuesday nights. He's also doing about 15 shows, so I try and catch every one of them. Arnie, love the stuff you're doing, man. But that said, let's jump right into it. Got a lot of stuff to discuss. We're in the middle of baseball season, guys. The dog days of summer are upon us. A lot of great things going on. We got some awards that have been handed out that I want to talk about. We have a youth movement going on in baseball across all levels. We're going to talk about that. It's funny. I used to get nervous about coming on air, about screwing up and not saying, the right things. Okay. But now I don't want to screw up this information because I feel it's really good stuff and it's fun to share it with you guys. So I hope you all appreciate it. Okay. So let's jump right in without any further ado. Okay. So I kind of thought this, being a Cubs fan, I'm going to start off just a couple high-level tidbits, okay? I thought, being a Cubs fan, I thought everybody kind of knew about this whole ordeal with Chris Bryant and the Cardinals and the Yadier Molina issue. So I was talking to Arnie about it, and he didn't understand what was going on. So long story short, Chris Bryant in the offseason said that St. Louis was a boring town. He said it in, just in passing. It wasn't a big deal. But Yadier Molina got wind of it and really kind of tried to blow it out of proportion. And I get where he's coming from, trying to rekindle the rivalry, right? So he took offense to it, and he came out, and there was words between those two folks. So this past week, Chris Bryant returned for the first time since that incident to Busch Stadium, and was met with resounding boos. But it's interesting, and I just posted the article online, so it's there for you guys to look at. The interesting part about it wasn't that the fans in St. Louis were booing him. That was kind of expected, right? But his own teammates were booing him as well. When you first hear that, you're like, wait, what? What's going on? But it was all in jest. It was, Joe Madden being Joe Madden, having fun and making light of the situation. So, Arnie was talking on one of his shows about Chris Bryant and I booed, and he didn't understand what was going on. So that kind of, spinned off from that. But just so you know, Chris Bryant did get booed by his teammates this last weekend. It wasn't anything in spite or anything. It was just having a good time with it, okay? So I thought I'd share that. It was hilarious, Kev. I totally agree. I kind of thought everybody knew about it, but when a gentleman as well studied as Arnie hadn't heard about it, I thought it was worth sharing. So first thing I want to get off my plate. Hope you guys, got a kick out of that as much as I did, right? The second thing I kind of want to talk about, just high level before we get into some of the things that, I've carved out, on a normal, itinerary, if you will. I want to talk about Mr. Trevor Story. Okay. And it's interesting because, I've been known to bash Trevor Story in the past, okay? But I'll come right out and say it. I'll admit when I'm wrong, okay? Trevor Story last week hit his 100th home run. So, no big deal. It happens, not all the time. It happens often. But the thing of significance with that is, and I don't think it got publicized enough, he did so faster than any other shortstop in the history of baseball, okay? That's pretty impressive, okay? So up until, I don't know, the early 90s, the gold standard was Ernie Banks. Ernie Banks did it in 500 games, and that was a big deal. That was a record that had stood for a long time. But then in the 90s, you had the steroids era and all that stuff. I don't think this guy did steroids, but Nomar Garciaparra did it in 491 games. So he eclipsed Ernie Banks' record, and it was pretty highly publicized. But then not far behind him was Mr. Steroid, Alex Rodriguez, and he did it in 470 games. Okay, so pretty impressive numbers. Eclipsed of Mr. Cub by 30 games. Pretty impressive. But, along comes Mr. Story. Mr. Story does it in 448 games, guys. That's 52 games better than Ernie Banks. Okay? That is something to be recognized. That is certainly a feat. And, I've often said that he was a batting average risk. But he's certainly proven this year, and we'll get to him a little bit more, a little bit later, that he's not that. He's an average hitter. I mean, that is a compliment, right? He is having a good year. So here's to Trevor Story for that accomplishment and being the fastest to 100 homers as a shortstop. In fact, I believe he was the 15th quickest of any position to do it. So, I know the ball's juiced, and as Kevin says, the grip on the ball is different, right? So, it's a different day and age, but it's certainly something that is worth taking notice on. The other thing I wanted to talk about real quickly that I don't think got enough publicity is Josh Bell. And I heard Lenny yesterday morning talking about, it's time to sell Josh Bell. And, he might be right. I don't know. Who am I to say? But fact of the matter is I don't believe that. I think if you have Bell, you kind of need to hold on to him. And I would even say, I'm going to disagree with the legend. I know this is taboo in this chat room. I kid, Lenny. I love you. Thank you for everything. Sincerely. But I'm going to say, I'm going to try and buy Josh Bell. Now, I don't know. I'm kind of saying this off the cuff, so I don't know who I'd offer for him. But, here's a guy you're talking about projected out will be only the second. He's projected to hit 50 homers, guys. 50 homers, okay? So only one other switch hitter's done that in the history of the game. Don't ask me who. I didn't write it down. I think it's DiMaggio. I don't know. Kevin, why don't you check that for me? Who hit 50 homers as a switch hitter? But anyway, so I got off target, but Josh Bell's having a career year. He is breaking out in Pittsburgh. And I get why Lenny says what he says. Pittsburgh can't get it right. They're tailing off. They're in a lot of trouble as a team. But I really do think Josh Bell's figured it out. I really do think that he's going to continue to have a year that is valuable, above average as a first baseman. So why wouldn't you want that guy? Mantle, that sounds right. I don't know. So here's my Josh Bell bit. Josh Bell had 94 total bases in the month of May. The record for the Pirates as an organization, I mean, here's some names right off the bubblegum cards, right? 92 bases was set by, it was a 72-year-old record set by Ralph Kiner back in 1947. Okay? And the next two, Pie Traynor had 88 total bases, and this is just for any month, had 88 total bases in August of 1928, and Paul Wainer, 1928, guys. That's crazy. Paul Wainer had 86 in August of 1930. So what's the point? Why does this matter? Well, one, I'm a historian, so I think this stuff is fun. It definitely gives a different perspective to things, right? But the other part of this is, this is rarefied air in Pittsburgh. They're not used to having these big power hitters like this. So, I think it's something to be applauded. I really do think, and I'll get to Starling Marte in a little bit as well. They have enough offense around Josh Bell to protect him enough for him to keep up his production. Now, is he going to tail off? Of course. But I don't think it's to the point where you want to sell him. That's just my 2 cents. I don't know. I'd like to know what you guys think. So, let's talk standings. And real quick, because everybody does this now. Artie does such a great job of this. I love the run differential stuff. I'm going to give you a little bit different perspective tonight, okay, guys? And I'm not going to go down through here and talk about games back and all that crap. No one wants to hear it. It's boring. AL East. What's the story in the AL East? Well, if you look at it, okay, you got the Yankees, the Rays, and the Red Sox, and the also-rans. The Yankees are really impressing right now. They're 21-12 at home and 17-8 away from Yankee Stadium. They're 17-8 away from Yankee Stadium. They've scored 310 runs and given up only 234. Guys, 310 runs is a substantial number. It's second in the division behind Boston, but the difference is about 50 runs of runs allowed. Okay? So Boston is giving up 284 and the Yankees are giving up 234. That's why they're in the shape that they're in. That's why the Yankees are in first place and the Red Sox are struggling. So, and it's funny, the run differential for these teams, the 3 teams at the top are well above positive run differential, and the 2 teams at the bottom are negative. The one thing I'll say about the guys at the bottom, the Orioles have given up 359 runs this year. Again, 359 runs this year. Guys, they are epically bad. Look for the fire sale to come at any time. And it's not going to be much of a fire sale because there's not much talent there, okay? So that's all I'll say about the East. Moving on to the Central, really there's only one team to discuss here, but, we can't just leave it at that. The Minnesota Twins, 347 runs scored. 347 runs scored, guys. That number is almost 100 runs, 90 runs better, 89 runs better than the next highest run scored in that division. And that's your Kansas City Royals. Kev, the difference between the Royals, I know there's a lot of differences, right? And the Twins, is the runs allowed. 239 runs allowed for the Twins. That's the best in the conference. And the third best in the American League. Okay? In perspective, the Royals have given up 310 runs. That is not good, fellas. That is not good. Okay? So, just some things to think about when you're setting your lineups. You might want to look at that number. I got this on ESPN, so it's pretty easy to find. But these numbers are telling. You look at how these teams are doing it, it says a lot. Okay? So finally, this is my favorite comparative of this whole thing, though. The American League West. And you might be like, what are you talking about? It's Houston and everybody else. And you're right. But I think you're selling out 2 different teams on here, okay? So, the Texas Rangers, guys, the Texas Rangers have scored 10 more runs than the Houston Astros have. They've scored 323 runs, and the Astros have scored only 313. Only 313. The difference, like I said, is the runs allowed. 212 for the Astros and 296 for the Rangers. So, obviously the Rangers pitching is much worse than Houston. It's a big difference. But you know what? It's working for the Rangers. It's working for them because they're sitting in second place. They're 20-9 at home. The Rangers are 20-9 at home. So if you're going down to Arlington, it's probably not going to go well for you. Okay? The third team I really want to discuss, who I think is trending in the right direction, even given, as Arnie pointed out, their 5-game losing streak, is the Oakland Athletics. Oakland is gearing up for a run, guys. They're sitting at 29-30, 11 games back, okay? They're just 18-15 at home, and they have a losing record of 11-15 on the road. They're right about even. They're plus 22 on a